Hi everybody, my name is Jeff Fowler. I'm the president of the Apartment Owners Association of California. So good to have you with us today. I'm very excited about the potential of increasing your revenue through creating more units in the existing apartments that you already have. And so we're going to have 4 different case studies today with our speaker, and he's going to walk you through exactly what they did. And I think this will put meat on the bones from the last time that we met and talked. If you didn't see the first one, definitely go back and watch it. And all of the videos you can watch on YouTube after the fact. And so go to YouTube and just type AOA USA, and then we'll come up. If you type just AOA, there's a great Korean band that comes up, and it won't show AOA. It's kind of funny, but yes, that's what's going on. And so yeah, we're here. We're one of the largest, AOA is one of the largest individually organized groups of apartment owners here in the state. And our goal is to help you succeed with your rental property. And so we're here trying to giving you ideas, either money saving ideas or money making ideas. And also, we're trying to give you information that'll help you make things just easier to do. And I know that the climate is tough, and I know a lot of you are struggling in LA, in San Francisco, in Alameda County, and different places where they make it super tough. And it's tough all over the state, but especially tough. And anyway, we're with you, and you definitely can call in and get property management advice and the forms off the website. And so we're here for you. Here we go. And you may have missed it. Yesterday, we had a live stream about SB 679. And so that's one that you'll want to look at and definitely vote no on. And we know that there's a vote today. Hopefully it doesn't even make the ballot, the November ballot. And we were asking people to make calls. Some of you may have heard about it. Some of you may not have. We're just doing the best that we can to get all that out to you. All right. And then we're going to have a Take Action Tuesday on August 23rd. And so that'll be a day when we call our representatives, and there'll be different things that we put forward for us to call on. And we do that every month. We want people to just have a monthly rhythm of being politically active. And we had stuff. We've had Pomona, Santa Monica, Bell Gardens, different areas where there's just been things that have come up that were more urgent. So anyway, lots of stuff going on, and we need the grassroots participation to be potent. For us to be effective, we really need everybody jumping on board and making calls or sending emails, whatever it might be. And all right, yeah, so here we go. So this is sponsored by the Windrich Group, and they are a group. They are a group that's going to help you with so many different things. If you're having a code enforcement, if you've been cited for some code enforcement issue, you can call these guys, and they can help you out if you question that citation, because these guys know their business. And our speaker today, he actually helped set up the whole code enforcement system for LA City, so he's very familiar with it. He was a former inspector with code enforcement, and he does not work with them anymore. This is an easy way to put it, but he knows his stuff, and he has a degree from Southern California Institute of Architecture. He also has a contractor's degree, and anyway, just a wealth of information. So I'm super excited to introduce to you today Zoran Windrich.
Hello. Hello everyone. I am very pleased to be here. I am also saddened the fact that we had this session before, and I was intending to do this very topic that we're talking about today. But because time is so short and this topic is so expansive and so complicated to describe that it's really hard to bring everything into sight and for you to understand. The converting units into rentable space is very simple, and it's really about reconfiguring what you currently have. It isn't an ADU. ADU is a little different. It's also involves some of the reconfiguring, but this is about converting existing units and adding units to that conversion. So we're basically going to show you four examples of different projects that we drew plans for, that we wanted you to see how the existing space was converted to create an additional rentable unit. The units range in size, but that depends on the space that we had. We will talk about how big a unit can be. We'll talk about where the unit can exist, and we can do this by right. Now, by right, I mean you can do it just because the zoning of your property allows us to add additional units. That's important. And it's also important to see that the unit is big enough that is occupiable and you have the money to create that unit, because that's all part of the system of getting it legalized, if you will. So I'm going to go through these projects now one by one, and things will come up that I will mention as the hurdles that we have to overcome for each of them. And they're all different. And, it's not like, you follow the yellow brick road and one brick after another, one step before the other, and then you'll get to the end. It isn't quite like that. We have to strategize, we have to think, we have to plan, and we have to execute strategically to get the things done. So I'm going to go through these projects with you. There are plans and there are photos. So let's see what we can do here. We're kind of going along with a project that is not that big, but in certain eyes it is big enough, where we have clients that buy these smaller projects. And, like in this one, for instance, if you look at this is a duplex. I mean, if you look over here, this is a commercial property. But you didn't know that, and you wouldn't know that unless you found the records that showed this as originally a store, then it got converted to living space. I'm going to go through these real quick as far as identifying what this is. Is this an addition, or is this an existing balcony that got converted? It's anything could fly if it's convincing enough. So we are using these photos to show you the variations. This is the front door to the complex. Like this photo right here, for instance, you can see the building of the commercial place and steps to get you up to the unit, but then the building is right here. So was it originally designed like that? Probably not. What came first? Well, I don't know. Well, we'll have to find out. That is part of the theory of record, of looking at the record. So this is the back side of the commercial place. That is a unit. But you notice here's a sidewalk. Why is it allowed? Well, because it was permitted at a time when that was allowed. So if you have an existing condition, this is what's called existing non-conforming rights that this property would have. So we just want to show you that, hey, you can do that if it was approved at whatever time it was approved at. And then, here we go. What happened to this? It just disappeared. So this is back to the use of this lovely technology. Bear with us, folks. So I wanted to show you this permit. This is the permit for that property, and it shows it as a 2-family dwelling and guest room. Now, if you scroll down a little bit further down, right, what the description of work is, says correct lines 1 and 2 of the previous permit. It gives you the permit application number. Convert duplex to 4 guest rooms to duplex. So now you have 4 light housekeeping rooms, to comply with substandard. Those are terms that they used back in the earlier years. In this case, 76 is when this was issued. They did some work and they changed the use. So the last approved use is the one that we would go with in terms of getting this approved. Sorry, folks. Technology is not that easy, you know. So the plans for this particular project is as follows. So I'm going to hopefully figure out how to make it a little bit smaller, and then scroll up. So do you see the existing floor plan of what we found when we went inside the building? And the proposed plan is where we added doors and added a kitchen. So in this particular case, this was how it was organized. This was all one apartment, and this was, I think, an opening to this other kitchen area. And then we came in and created a wall separating the two and made this into a single apartment, and this became another apartment. So you had from all of this being one apartment, it became two apartments with this dividing line. So that's one way that this footprint changed. And this was the other floor. Let's look at the existing floor line. Is all of it was one unit with a kitchen here, living space, bedroom over here, and then it got converted to this. We divided this line, put a wall here, making this into a little studio, and of course the other one became, you know, a one bedroom. So the splits, and I'm sorry that it's really confusing, but the split is here, and the door opening that had this connected as one is now two because of that separation. So this is how you get two units out of one unit, basically. And I wanted to show you the guest room, 4 guest rooms and duplex to duplex. It's a little complicated, but this is your #1 go-to record that you begin your story of what do we do to this property is by looking at the records, identifying that, and then moving towards whatever the goal might be on that particular job. Now this is quite different. This job is called a Zoran project. We have many units involved, and we have done a bunch of work on the inside and a bunch of work on the outside. So this is a multi-unit apartment building, and you will see that it takes quite a bit of planning and people organized to meet. And these are the planners, the sellers, the agents putting together a theory. And we were there to offer potential uses and what can we do before the document of purchase is signed, and you know, they go through with the purchase of the property. And this is just a quick scroll through the courtyard. This is how it looked like the day we were there. It was pretty vacant, maybe 90% vacant, because it was planned to be sold, and that's what happened. You'll see some pictures on the end when the whole thing was remodeled. And so I wanted to go through Unit 31. We have identified this as a potential unit, but this is, the city called this a storage room. So this storage room literally looks like, pretty much a storage place. You put your junk in there. It had some framing, and it was like this. And this, I'll show you a little bit, became Unit 31. I know you think, well, how is that possible? Well, with a little planning, a little bit of work, it is quite possible to do that, even though it's considered crawl space by the city. I wanted to use the plan for a moment, and so we call this the existing floor plan here. Basically, garage parking, double doors, storage, opening to another storage to the outside. And that's how it was. This is all unusable crawl space, dirt, and space between the dirt and the bottom of the first floor. And then we added a hallway here, which is really extending it to the front. You have to exit the shadows or the footprint of the building. That means exit to the unit had to be in front of the building, and that's a fire code. Fire code says you can't exit and be inside the building. When you exit the front door, you have to have clearance vertically, horizontally, to be outside of the footprint of the building. So that was met by this corridor built for that unit. And the kitchenette, dining, this is a little shower kind of extending into the crawl space. And we stopped it here because the framing was a little more complicated going the other direction. To keep the cost down, we kept the unit at this width. So you have a bedroom there, and of course you see bicycles, and that was part of the solution in our plan to go ahead and include bicycle parking. I'm showing you the overall floor plan of the whole first floor. So this is what was submitted and approved, you see right here, as the first floor plan. So the unit that I was just pointing to is this one here. You had your parking spaces, and we added bicycle parking. There's no units allowed without parking. This is the way the law reads, so providing that. And there's Unit 32, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But it is out of, again, same thing, crawl space. We made a unit out of that. And there's another little place where we could put bicycles. And bicycles are 4 bikes to 1 car, so we added a lot of bicycles to replace for the cars. So this is the enlarged version of Unit 31. You see parking is right here. This is a fire-rated wall. That's all part of the planning aspect of getting this thing done. And now Unit 32, they call it storage. We call this is where it's located in the front of the building, but you wouldn't be able to do, or at least consider that, without thinking, okay, what's the maximum thing that I can do? So this is what that space looked like when they were looking to buy the building. As you can see, it was sort of used for storing, leaving materials, leaving extra materials, and it was used by maintenance mostly. So that space, and then it was cleaned up, pre-purchased. It was part of the condition of sale. Clean up all your junk in there, and that's what it ended up happening, making it somewhat presentable. Everything is cleaned up. Okay, we can deal with that. And let's see, we call that Unit 32. So from that raunchy storage, oh my God, I can't go in there. I'm afraid of rats and bugs. Well, this is what you get out of it. And you spend a little time, a little planning, a little thinking. You end up with something like this. Of course, this is the style of the entire building that this particular owner decided to use. And God bless him. He really did an excellent job. So this is that unit 32, the existing proposed, and the existing here is flat out store. You couldn't even get in here. You had to get in where the garage. Well, there's electric meters here, and there was a door, enter to storage, and we added a door, you know, right at the front end, made a little walkway, and it's a gorgeous little unit. It's got window ventilation. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Closet, bathroom, and we call that unit 32. They call it storage. We call it unit 32. That's really the big gift, I think, when you think about these projects. Let's see, what do we have here? This is the ground floor. When we occupied the building, when they bought the building, this is what we were looking at. It was all storage, open courtyard, parking everywhere, and then we made that into what you see, the end result. The certificate of occupancy is a little interesting, I think. Let's see if we can rotate this baby. Well, so this is what they call a certificate of occupancy when the building was built. It's a 3-story building, 28 apartments, and attached 16-car garage, 28 required parking spaces. Now, by the way, when this says what it says, our plans or anybody's plans need to duplicate what this record demonstrates. You have to show 28 parking spaces, standard, and you have to show 28 apartments with a 16-car garage. Now, 16-car garage means that these were the parking spaces underneath the building. The others were outside of the footprint of the building. So even though they're required parking, they don't count like they are in a garage. So here we go. The final plans of approval of that particular property. Yeah, you show what you have, and you show the record of what it was when the building was built, if we have it. And then there's a bunch of transportation requirements to justify bicycle parking for the property, and you know, it's part of the requirement, but it's part of the front cover. And of course, you know, there are many sheets that we have to use, and of course the proposed plan of what is being configured is identified, and bicycle parking is identified, and so forth. So it is quite a bit of work, but I want to show you something else. I'm showing this description of work. Every plan, every job that we do has this direction. What is the goal and objective of this submittal? And the city reads this, and everybody reads it. So convert storage to a 1-bedroom apartment, that's the crawl space one. Convert storage to a studio, that's the other one. And add 9 studios to a 30-unit apartment building, remodeling the following. So these units, 13, 2, 3, 4, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all had to be adjusted, modified, walls moved, things changed to create the 9 studios. There were 9 studios, which means each one had a kitchen and each one had a bathroom. And there were 9 of them to that existing. That's the maximum that we could actually create on that property. So it does pay to think, it does pay to apply, you know, various scenarios. How do we get that done? It's not all easy and simple. You have to use plans. We have to, you know, sketch it out and see whatever our sketch says, the location, the cost, and will it be approved? So that's a strategy that we have to employ on every project. Like the next one here is currently under construction. So I'm showing you these slides because it wasn't easy to get there. This is Myra in Silver Lake area, and it's a kind of a nice property, but it's old and it's been dilapidated. So, you know, it was right next to the property line. There's another building next door. There's all these discussions about buying it to be able to expand this one. What does this, you know, parking look like? So the whole investigative portion is the very first thing we do, and then measuring where the property line is, knowing how much space is there, because it all becomes relevant to what we actually do. And then when we kind of get an idea what this building can be, then we start, you know, moving forward on, okay, let's analyze this a little further. This particular unit was thought of as a guest room, but because the plans show this to be possibly a guest room, tiny little thing, but it really looked like an office. So we sold it as an office, meaning we converted it as an office, and then we did something else. I will show you a little bit what we did with that. But to understand, you know, how do we call this, we had to see the structure, because the structure had to be revealed to us to know how is the building organized and how is it built, what are the structural members and where are they located within those walls, to know how do we respond. So this was the moment that we actually went back to the building. We took that room, Unit 4, we cleaned it out, and we really wanted to see what was on the ground. Was the drain line installed after the fact, or was the drain line installed when they built the building? You can see that through this kind of investigation, clean it up, and then this is kind of the first step of getting this work done, to know what are you going to do. And it's only possible to know that after you've identified the members, and structurally you have to know what that is to know your cost, because structure is pretty expensive. Like this beam that was over this window and door ended right here. So this was regular framing. So, you know, what do we call that? We call that, well, demo this corner here. Let's see. Identifying original wall. Was that original wall to here? Was that added? Well, here we're making some determinations based on what we're, you know, talking about. Was that wall here and was it not there? So that has to be known when we plan. And so this was a big planning deal to make things work on the proposed plan. Of course, the client always wants maximum. Give me the maximum that you get me on this particular property. Had very interesting steel connections to wood framing, and all that is holding a 3-story building. So, you know, it's not really that simple. Now, what we have here is the original permit when the permit was issued to build this property. It's 1 apartment and garage. Okay, they call it 17 units and 17 parking spaces. But now look at this. It said that this was changed from 16 unit and guest room to 17 units. So this 17 unit is the final determination by this permit application that says this is a 17 unit building. It's a bit complicated, but that's what we have. So, okay, that we know that we have 17 units, then how do we make that happen? So we figured that Unit 4 is we're going to call it that it was an office, but in reality, we're proposing a new unit right here where the office was. So we, even though the office wasn't on the permit, we have made the assessment that it's an office existing, and in this case it got approved. That it got approved as that's the office. So even though this existing and approved is kind of us making the leap, yeah, it's approved. So yeah, so maybe it'll go. And just so you know, it's not all, that simple. Plan checkers do ask questions. So this project was approved in March, and it got sold of March of, I guess that was 21, yeah, March 21. And it's under construction at the moment. So all of this, even though that let me go to another page here. Where is that? There we go. So this is the office that we configured, and then this is part of the existing site plan ground, and then this is the proposed site plan ground floor. So we're converting this into a unit and expanding. See, from here we took a space from another unit, and we basically added a bathroom in that area, a little kitchen right here. Plumbing was already there. So it was a game of parking size. It was quite challenging to make this work. And even after getting all of this approved, we still had more to go that could have had additional work done. But to do that additional work, it was another step and more work in structure to provide parking for another car. And so it was just a financial decision not to move forward. So I'm showing you the permit application to submit this project to the city. It was called Convert Existing 17 Unit to 20 Unit Apartment and Convert Manager Office into an Accessory Dwelling Unit. So it worked. And I gotta tell you, it's not always the case where it works the way you think it's gonna work. Plan checkers make decisions. They make decisions based on their knowledge, like everybody else. So we make assumptions, we do a study, we prepare, we have alternatives, and we submit. You kind of wait, see where his response is going to be, and we get corrections. Those corrections and those responses vary. You don't know who you're going to get. And sometimes we don't like certain plan checkers because they're typically known to be difficult or non-compliant or slow to respond, or they just don't want to help. Simple as that. Just like, inspectors, just like everybody, they have attitudes, and they have a good day, they have a bad day. So when we submit, we make our assessment. We don't know who we're going to get. And then whenever you submit, you respond to what you have, whatever the corrections you get. Then we begin our strategy after the plans have been submitted and received. And so it's really not quite that simple. Now this one, 11th place, is very interesting to me because the current owner at the time used the property to maximize its use. So he occupied the attic without a permit. He occupied the basement thinking without a permit. I said thinking because he didn't know. And then I will show you what the pictures of this particular attic look like when we went to see the property. So this is in case of a buyer. He's looking to buy this property, and he hired us to investigate. What do you think? So, well, let's go to the attic and see what we see. So we see extension cords. Uh-oh, as an inspector would say, what are these extension cords? Usually means area that isn't supposed to be occupied is currently occupied. Well, we have paper stapled over framing to kind of make it work. The attic was used for living space for 3 people, and they rented this space, this bed, in the attic. They had little curtains to divide their space from someone else's space, and the owner was charging them very little rent. I don't know how much, really, but this is what people, because of money, end up doing. So they basically call this home for God knows how much time. So I'm showing you this because that's how it was when we got there. And there's rental needs everywhere in the city. And this was a couple of years back. It was a problem then, and it's a problem today. So living in a place that is safe and that is nice and small is okay. It's better than this. That's kind of like my understanding out of all this, that I'm helping create space legally for people to live in. And this kind of problem like here that I'm pointing at, which is 2 Romex wires coming together, taped, folded, and with electrical tape held, stretched, could be a potential fire hazard. And there's no protection for these people up here or anybody in the building at that time if anything went out of whack. So this is the good old attic rented space. So there's many violations here, many unsafe conditions that you would not want to be the landlord for, because if anything happens to these people, to this place, is a disaster. So I think I just wanted you to see, what we came across on this particular one. And basement, a little bit better, but not quite that much better. This was the doorway in the back of the property that allowed you to go back inside in the dungeon, literally the dungeon. So you would walk in there and you'd go, this is, on the front. So you look at it. When I looked at this, I go, okay, so this is the siding, that's the siding. Okay, this is definitely not okay. What's up with this? So you go inside, which we did, and we saw open framing. This is the mechanical room and drain lines, new framing, old framing. This was the basement. And part of the basement, there were 4 units, 4 rooms, I should say. And I couldn't even take a picture of those rooms because they were too cluttered with stuff. Because what the owner did, he made it look like it's storage, every one of those rooms, before an inspection. He's been inspected multiple times, and each time the inspector came, he called it storage. And it looked like storage, like a pile of mattresses, clothes, suitcases. He threw a bike or 2 on top of the pile. So he just kind of went along, and the inspector bought it because there was nobody living there. So it looked good. So this is what the property looked like at the time. Now I'm pointing out to these windows because these windows were part of the existing building layout. This is to provide light to the basement, right along here. in there. And let me show you what ended up happening here. Where is that? Okay, so that's the back side of the building. And then, well, let's do this. Let's talk about what the permit application says. It says 2-story, type 5, 2-family dwelling, meaning duplex, and 4 guest rooms. Well, you know, when you go to a property, it's not like it says, okay, down here, back door, go through that door, and inside there is 4 guest rooms. It doesn't quite give you that instruction. It just says, you know, nobody's got time to identify anything, so let's just write it in very short sentences, and you figure it out when it's time to figure it out. So it leaves a bit of room. Where is that happening again? Well, somewhere in the building. It's a 2-story. You figure it out. And that's what we did. We went and figured it out. So what we figured out was that, hey, Mr. Buyer, guess what? And the buyer would go, what? You have 4 guest rooms in the basement of this building. Oh, yeah? Yeah. This is the room where all that junk that you saw photos of was located. And you have to go down inside. So this is lower. And then, yeah, if you went through down a little more steps, there's a hallway, and there's room 1, guest room 2, guest room 3, and guest room 4. Those are your 4 guest rooms. What? Nice. Shh. Don't say anything. No, we won't tell him that he has 4 guest rooms in the basement. Don't worry about it. Imagine that. So what the seller didn't know is that the seller was sitting on 4 units. Well, 4 guest rooms. But he didn't know that. He didn't do the research. He didn't dig before he bought it, and he owned it, and he rented the attic, as you saw, and he rented the basement, I'm sure for a reasonable price, whatever that is. But then look at that. We were able to convert each of those, well, not each, but 3 out of the 4 into lighthouse keeping rooms. That means each one became its own unit. We call it a studio, but it's called technically a lighthouse keeping room. Had a bathroom and a kitchenette inside of those 3 units or 3 rooms. So I'm very excited about that. So we went ahead and proposed that to be done. And I wanted to show you this because these 4 windows made the light and ventilation satisfactory to the ordinance, lighthouse keeping ordinance. So now you know that that's the secret, the lighthouse keeping ordinance. But let me show you this. Listing photos, the best part of all. How did it look like? Well, let me show you what it looked like. And you won't, so this building, I cleaned it up, whatever, all right? And then look at that. That's all from the basement. And the basement photo of one of the units. And this is what that dungeon, scary place you can do horror movies in, looked like when it was done. And that's the accomplishment. And they're not huge, but they're certainly bringing in good money to the landlord and doing for them by a little bit of finish, of course, make sure that it's legal. And, you know, it's like anything is possible when you do this kind of work. And I want to show you this. Remember that? The attic? Okay. You can't rent an attic, okay? You can, here are the steps that we use to get up there, but you can certainly clean it up. And okay, the ordinance and the building code doesn't allow you to use it as living space, but for storage and leaving it accessible like that, okay, so nobody's going to say anything if you get up there and you have a little get together with the kids, maybe. But if you having a party, if you're gathering, hey, let's go up there in the attic and invite the neighborhood, and you spring out the beer and you spread out a table and you have 30 people up there, that's not good. So this is not made, just don't be fooled because it looks nice, you just occupy. You can't do that. Why? Because there's no framing allowed big enough to carry your body and next door neighbor and 15 other people on that original framing. This was meant to hold itself and a little bit of incidental storage. Okay, so he made it look clean. That was nice, but don't be fooled by the looking clean, just put walls and rent it. You shouldn't do that. I'm not advising you to do that, and it's still unsafe. And if you get caught doing something illegal and somebody gets hurt, it's a no-brainer. You're going to hold the ticket for that. So don't do it. Well, what else do I have? Oh, the neighborhood that it was in. Look at this. So it's the kind of property. That was his model. He chose to go to these neighbor, the owner, and this is what what his model looked like in the neighborhood like this. There's plenty of properties out there that will have the opportunity to do what he did plus more. So that's really the lesson, is that you can do that if you want to, if you think smart about it. And so I think we have covered the circle of at least showing you some examples. My apologies for the technology. It's a little rusty to getting it incorporated into this format. I wish we were in a room, everything was like right there. We're working on getting it better displayed and talked about and having a discussion. So hopefully you forgive us for being technically incapable of doing it perfectly. And so I think I'm concluding this, and hopefully you got something out of it. Yeah.
Great. Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
And like you added those other 9 units, and you just kind of breezed over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breezed over that. I was like, you added not just these 2, but you added 9 other ones.
Other
and I'm
units,
just
yeah.
like, I think y'all got that, but he kind of breezed over it. I'm just like, this is incredible. And for the seller not to know what he had, because he hadn't looked into it, really, really interesting. And it's neat to see places that are very common. That one where you added 9 or added 11, really, it looks like a lot of the apartments that our members own.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really exciting. And then to think, yes, and the whole goal is let's increase our revenue, but then the thought that we're in a place that is just dying for more housing, and the fact that we can add more units in this area, it's awesome. It's just it's a total win-win-win all
Totally.
around.
And it's right there. It could be right under your nose, like in the case of that 4 guest rooms in the basement. He did not know.
Right.
And he was just renting what he thought he was making money. Maybe he charged $300 a month. So somebody that doesn't have money doesn't mind paying $300 a month and have a place to go to, call home, even though it's an attic with blankets separating them from the next door person sleeping on another mattress. But you can do better. They can do better.
Right.
So find out what you have. Are you in a property where these potentials are buried inside? It begins with a search. It begins with a visit. We can identify that for you. And then I'm sure there's going to be at least 1, maybe 4 options. What do you do to maximize the use of this property? There are many options like that we came across, and that group of people that were looking at the Serrano project. That was the second owner. The first owner sold it and created 3 units. He sold it to the next guy who added more units. So it's just a matter of what your plan is to do with the property. He decided to upgrade electrical, upgrade plumbing, upgrade, and adding all those units. 9 studios in total with 2 new units on top of that. So it's really up to you. I mean, basically it's up to you. If you can, put the money together to do something like that, in the end, it's going to be well worth it for you. Yeah.
Great. So if you have questions, now's the time. If you're watching on AOAUSA.com, there's that blue help button. Click on it, type your question in, and they'll get that to us. And then also we do have a couple questions on YouTube that we'll get to. And again, we have the trade show coming up October 27th, Long Beach Convention Center. It will be amazing. Dan Fowler, founder of AOA, will speak. We'll have Jeffrey Taylor, who's Mr. Landlord, crazy popular, and just a very entertaining speaker that's going to deliver a lot of great ideas to you. And so many more, so many more. And that's going to be in October. So mark your calendars for the end of October, the 27th at the Long Beach Convention Center. That'll be neat. And just every week we're having live streams. The 25th of this month, we will have a member orientation, so to speak. We want you to know everything that you have as an AOA member. So just how to use the tools and some time that we'll spend sharing that with you. So sign up for that one if you haven't. And let's get to questions. Mike on YouTube, can we turn a conforming duplex into a fourplex and or make each 2-car garage into more units?
Can we turn a conforming duplex into fourplex and or make a 2-car garage? You can convert your garage space into units. State law allows 25% of your unit count to be converted to ADUs through the state. If you're going to use the state, that's your guideline. And if you're going to use the city's guideline, which is 1 ADU. Now remember, we're talking about the ADU versus by right. What I talked about is mostly by right, meaning no ADU needed, because at the end of the day, any by right execution of improvement can have an ADU at the end, because the ADU is a gift. They'll give it to you. LA will. State of California will give you 25%. You can convert 1 or up to 25% of your existing units. So remember, if you have a duplex, that's 1. So you're not going to go to 50%. It's going to be using the LA law, converting your unit by adding LA rule about ADU, which is 1 ADU. But look at your density. Is it zoned for duplex, or is it zoned for something more, for multi-units like RD 1.5, and you just so happen to have a duplex? So that needs to be investigated. Can you add more by right? Or if you're maxed out by density and zone, then adding an ADU is a simple solution for you. You can do that.
Great. All right. Gregory on YouTube, can a rumpus room, that was the name that they used in 1952, be converted to livable space, but not an ADU? And this is in Altadena, unincorporated LA County.
That's a good question. Some cities operate differently from LA. So that would be a question to the city planners and the zoning department. I think it's going to be the county in this case. How will the county look at converting a rec room, if you will, a rumpus room, into some? I've seen and I have worked on county projects where an approved space was easily converted to an ADU. They want to add units. They don't want to be an impediment to it. They want to encourage that. So you're halfway there. But you should definitely check with the county if this conversion of a rec room to an ADU is something that they would support.
Yeah. And in that question, he said, but not an ADU. So he was trying to see if it could be.
Well, then it would be by right. So
Right.
converting, is it a multi-unit or a single family? Did he say a single family?
Yeah, he doesn't. It doesn't have it there. It sounds, yeah. So write more in for us, and then we could answer that a little better for you.
The rumpus room, rec room is a living space. You can add it to your other unit. You don't need a permit to create the space. Space is already created. You want to join it to the rest of the house is what I think you're saying, right? I'm not sure if it's already internally connected. If it isn't, you can connect it because it's part of the same thing. But if you wanted to leave it as separate living, independent living, by right, that's a zoning question. And if you don't want an ADU, which is what Jeff was saying, then you don't need to worry about that. You can definitely connect it and use it.
All right, and just fill us in more if that didn't do it for you. Would you be interested in the projects in Northern California?
We have talked about that. There's a lot of work that can be done through the internet and through submittals online, but it would require a physical visit to do the assessment. Obtaining the records, we can do that from here. And then when we have the records, we would make a trip out there and look at the property. Jeff and I were talking about doing a talk up there, but right now it's not fully activated because it's like, do I go there for one job kind of thing? And it's not really worth it. I mean, not that I don't want to, I want to, but it needs to be worth your while for us to be there. And, we need to make sure that we take full advantage of the trip to make use of that. So yes, we would consider that.
So give him a call and just talk it out, and we'll see if he can work with you or not. And okay, Greg, thanks for following up. Yes, it's a single family home with a rumpus room. Can I rent out the rumpus room?
You can rent any portion of your house.
True, right?
It's your call. You can do Airbnb. You can do whatever you want. But you can't have another kitchen. You can't have them cook in this rumpus room. Can't have a counter with a sink, call it a kitchen. You can't do that. But is there ways around that? Yes. How do you protect yourself so whoever you rent to, doesn't make a lot of noise and you don't want to hear them blowing their noses as you're trying to live your life next door? That's another consideration. You want to have separation. It's called shared living. And shared living is one of those circumstances where the separation, the door to separate you from that space, is there, lockable, separated, maybe 2 doors, but no additional kitchen, no cooking facility on that side. That's the key factor that distinguishes you from 2 units to a single house with another added room. So yes, you can rent it. Airbnb. I mean,
and Airbnb could be even better than just having
Yeah, probably. You get more money that way.
Right. And, well, great. And they see your information on the screen, have the phone number, the website, the email. So definitely give them a call and let's put him to work. Let's see what he can do for you. And it's also all at the same time, it's solving a massive problem that we have here.
Yeah.
And I mean, they should subsidize you at this LA City. Instead of paying $800,000 to create a new unit, they should just throw you a little chump change and let you work on it. Anyway, so thank you, everyone. And we're just trying to give you ideas and provide pathways to increase your revenue and help you be as successful as possible. We all want to leave a legacy. We all want to take care of our families, and we know that's what we're all in it for. And anyway, thank you again, and Zoran, thank you for sharing. And I think we will be doing some seminars, and it will be a little different. Instead of this topic, he'll cover. There's 13 really common code violations that people are cited for. And so we will do a little tour, and he'll cover about 4 of those in each of those segments. That will probably be in-person seminars. And so just check your schedule. Hopefully we're going to get those on the books here pretty soon, and on the calendar, and get it all taken care of. Anyway, thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.